So I got the new pistons and the old rods with new wrist pins. And this turned out to be a two-man job because I don't really have the tools required to do this single-handedly. So, whatever. I didn't get a chance to record it because of that. But here's where they are. All 8. New pistons, new ring, new pistons, new wrist pins, pressed in. We did a cold press. Tried heating the connecting rods a few times. Mixed results. I'm sure it was inconsistent heating on my behalf. But whatever, we got it done. So tomorrow, get the rotating assembly together. Cam's in. Just needs assembly lube. Do that tomorrow. Main bearings are in. Crank's been polished. That's ready to go in. So I think tomorrow will be assembly day. So I'm just putting in the studs for the oil pan. Might as well put a little bit of blue thread locker on them. They're pretty good for locating your gasket in the oil pan as well. Time to lube up the cam. Got some engine assembly lube. Just wipe down all the journals. Good healthy coating. Put some on the gear in the back here for the distributor. I'm not a big fan of the Permatex Ultra Slick. It makes a damn mess. I mean, look at this. You get these strings everywhere. But it's what I got, so I'll make the most of it. So I'm just smearing the lube all over the cam journals. I really don't want to take the cam all the way out again just to lube them up. Really uncomfortable taking the cam in and out so many times. I'm also making sure to get a good amount on the back of the cam gear here, the timing gear, since it rides against the block. All right. Go. Give it a good spin. Try to distribute as much of that assembly lube as possible. Make sure I get some on the fuel pump lube. So now the cam's in, let's get ready for the crank. Put a nice healthy lob. This is way too much, but hey, whatever. Is it possible to have too much lube? Also want to make sure you get the thrust bearings back here. Some of this good high tech. Put a little bit in the main, in the rear main seal. All right, that looks good. Grab the crank, drop it in place, and we should be ready to start putting pistons in. Put a little bit of sealant on the rear main seal. Before I forget. It's way too much. Way too much. I've got just a dab, very small dab of, what is this? Honda Bond 4. I had some from working on my wife's Honda Pilot. It's really good stuff. It's really thin, but it stays somewhat flexible. Super tacky. See how well that holds up here. I think it'll be more than adequate. Plenty of assembly lube. Again, make sure I'm getting the thrust surface. I'll put a little more on there. And again, I'll put a little more on the rear main seal. Again, just a little. All right. sure we put the main caps back in the right order. It's number 1. Make sure it's good and clean. Make sure it's facing the right way. Arrow towards the front. So we've got a little bit of, what's this stuff called? Fastener lube. A little bit of fastener lube from A&P. Put some on threads. And under the head of the bolts. So you get accurate torque readings. Comes down tight and down. Make sure it actually gets in the threads. So I got the torque rate set to 70 foot-pounds. I'm just going to snug these down on the back. Now before I tighten everything down, damn trucks. Give the motor, the crank a good whack, front and back, to make sure that my rear main cap is giving me as much thrust as possible against the thrust bearing on the back of the crank. And I'm right-handed, so the left-handed whacks aren't very good. It's just a dead blow hammer. So, let's start in the middle, take it down to 70 foot-pounds. Take them down nice and even first. And gradually work my way up, 70. There's 70. Next one. Double check, starting over. All right, cranks in. See how freely it spins. The only resistance I can feel is the all that assembly lube, but I don't feel any binding. Let me get all this excessive lube off here. Make sure we still have some front to back thrust. Very slight, but it's there. Okay. So, arrows facing forward to the motor on each of the main caps. Get this one out of the shadows. There we go. Forward, forward, forward. Only fits one way. And numbered. I stamped these before I took them out. Single dot and the number 1. 2 dots stamped with the number 2 as well. 3 dots stamped with the number 3. And 4 dots kind of stamped with the number 4. And again, this one only goes in one place. So all the main caps are in. They're in their final resting place. Everything spins freely. The only drag I feel is the assembly lube. There's no binding. Feels like butter. So that's a good sign. And I have a feeling the restriction I'm feeling on the thrust, forward to back, is from all the assembly lube that's wedged in between the thrust surfaces. down in here, as well as in this last counterweight. Alright, so piston rings. I don't see a top or a bottom for this one, so we'll just put him in. Wavy oil ring. Two oil rings. I do not see a top or bottom on this either. We'll go all the way down. Let's first make, there's a connection. All right. Set the location of the gaps to be off a little bit here. So I've got there's one oil control ring here. That's a gap. Got the wavy ring gap here, say at like 12 o'clock. And we'll put the top control ring in at roughly 2 o'clock. So we got roughly 10, 12, just about 2. Make sure we're going in all right. Slide it down. And we're in. So I've got bottom ring at 10, top ring roughly at 12, I'm sorry, 2, and the wavy ring roughly at 12. So then, swing it around, grab the second ring, it has laser etching of top, so make sure that faces up. Put that in our ring expander. Get him in the second groove. Nope, went in the first one. Put him in the second groove. Try that again. There we go. Second groove. Top groove, number 1. Also with a top laser etched. Make sure that faces up. There we go. And oil control rings. The oil ring was set on this side. So we'll just flip it around. We'll take this gap to 10, roughly, and this gap over to 2, roughly, this being 12. And this is piston number 2. We stamped it before we took it out. Put some bearings on it, drop it into board number 2. So I'll take some oil, wipe down the cylinder, make sure my crank's in a good position. Put down the bottom. So I'll take some oil, just wipe down the cylinder a little bit. I don't want to put them in dry. Same with the piston ring compressor. Give it a light coating of oil inside. Try to prevent any binding. Put some assembly lube in the bearing. Make sure the front's facing the front. Careful not to scratch the cylinder. Gently guide it from below. Let that sit there for a minute. Grab the ring compressor. Make sure the rings are in the groove. All right. We're lined up down at the bottom. Send it home. So down on the bottom end, I'm making sure to guide the connecting rod bolts onto the crank as I'm pounding the piston down. That's all right, I can edit the audio. rod cap on. Make sure it faces the right way. Let's see. This way. Come on. Piston numero uno. Who's a pistone? Pistone? Numero uno? Don't you just put an O at the end of everything in Spanish?
Yeah. Better pistone than pistote. Or was it the other way? Better pistote than pistone.
Truer words have never been said regardless of language. Alright, so that's one. 7 more to go. So I'm going to set you up with an assembly line here. I'm going to put the rings on. Super simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I had this dumb thought that I wanted to ask you. You know that your cylinder head when you're this is what, number 8 here?
This one's 8. That's 7.
Okay. That doesn't happen to be the one where you had where we had the issue with the rod, is it? I mean, the piston. It's a dumb question. I was just thinking, I was like,
I don't know, but I was thinking about that. I was thinking the same thing. I'll have to look.
yeah.
I'm hoping it's not.
Yeah, me too. I was just thinking,
I don't
like,
want to put all of the heads stuck in one cylinder.
exactly what I was thinking.
In fact, I have on the heads, there's like 2 valves that kind of like didn't lap very well, so they're slightly pitted on the valve seat, and I have a feeling it's going to like lose some compression because of that.
Yeah.
And I stamped it on the outside of the head just so I know when I put it on, don't put it on that one because
Yeah, for the same reason. Yeah.
I don't know if it would line up that way.
So maybe it wasn't dumb.
So we got the pistons in, and the bottom end is torqued down. So got full rotating assembly now. Oh, and don't do what I did, which is forget to put in the plugs for the oil galleys. See them back in there? Yeah. Before you put on your cam sprocket. I forgot to put them in. Thankfully, I was cleaning up. I went over to look at some of my stuff that I was about to throw out, or things that I could throw out. And notice I still had some small plugs left, so that was a good reminder. Better late than never. I put a torque wrench on here yesterday. I think it took about 30 foot-pounds roughly to get the rotating assembly to spin. I may regret this, but I put a thin layer of liquid gas on the around the timing cover area underneath the gasket here. It will definitely hold the gasket in place. But like I said, I might regret doing this if I ever have to take this off. And I don't fully trust the timing cover only because it had some dings on the gasketed surface that I had to hammer out. So basically I had to hammer it somewhat flat. And it looks pretty decent, but don't know how well it's going to seal against the gasket, so I'm going to put a thin coat on here as well. Again, I seriously may regret this, but hopefully I never have to get back in here again. Trying to keep this as thin as possible. Now before I tighten these down, I'm going to put the harmonic balancer on just to try to center the seal on the crank snout. Okay. Make sure we're still loose here. I want the balancer to kind of dictate where the timing cover sits. Alright, timing cover's done. So, slight change of plans with the oil pump. I'm not sure how to take the oil pickup off of the original oil pump. And it's an original GM part anyway. So, as far as the pump itself goes, there isn't really any wear inside the pump except for the gears inside that actually pump. So the housing itself seems fine. So what I'm going to do is take the, for lack of better words, gears out of my new pump, put them into my old pump, reassemble the old pump, put it back in the motor, and I'll call that done. I don't know who makes the original pump, the new pump. It was, who is it? Engine Tech, I think. But I don't know that they make their own. So I really don't know the origin of the Engine Tech pumps. And the only difference I've noticed, orient these the same way, is this embossment for, I guess, is the return for the pressure spring. There's the pressure spring, runs all the way through this way. So there's a piston in here. It looks as if though oil comes in this way, gets pumped. This acts as a pressure release valve inside here. And I'm not sure why this is here. Maybe that provides extra oil across the top of the teeth of the gears. I don't know. But if anybody knows, feel free to comment, let me know. Regardless, the reason I want to swap out the gears is because I can feel a slight groove worn in the shaft of the original pump. And some of the teeth are worn oddly. So I got the impression this was, and this is a gross exaggeration, but that this may have been wobbling inside the bore because the shaft is worn only on one side. So, brand new gear, brand new shaft, no wear. It's the old one that has some wear on it. So these go away. New, inside old. And I saw a dot on each of these gears. Right there. Right here. I'm going to treat that like a cam, like a timing set. I'm going to line them back up. Put that on there. Throw it in the bottom of the motor. Done. Alright, so it's time for the oil pan. I'm going to put the oil pan gasket on. But before I do, I'm going to wipe it down. I'm going to wipe down the mating surfaces with some acetone. Just want to make sure that it's nice and clean before I put the gasket on. I won't have to do any of this again. Do the same on the bottom of my pan. I guess that'd be the top. So, Velcro recommends, as I guess any gasket manufacturer would, a small dab of RTV down in the corners between the front timing cover here where it meets the block and down in the back, the rear main seal. And they want everything else to be dry. I'm just going to put a dab. So I just have a small dab in each corner, as recommended. And I'll put the gasket on. Unfortunately, this looks to be a somewhat universal small block gasket in that it has dipstick tube provisions on both sides of the block. Not a big fan of that, but I wasn't aware of it when I ordered it. So it's what I got. It's what I'm going to use. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Get a good fit down in these corners. Make sure we're nice and tight. Get some good ooze. Especially want to make sure that the corners are nice and tight inside. Where they meet, where the block meets the main cap in the back here. Get a good seal. Alright, and this is why I like using the studs in the corners. See, using these as alignment pins gets me nice and oriented. Corners look pretty good. A little bit of ooze, that's good. Don't want too much, nothing really on the inside. Just a little dab. Hardly see anything in that one. Came out through the front though. Pickup tube looks like it would be sitting right where it should be, right on the bottom of the pan. Make sure the corners are nice and tight. And there's a pretty decent sized gap in there. I expected this to sit flush already. Corners are what's really catching it. Put the nuts on and see if they suck it down some, but that's a pretty big gap. We'll see how it goes. Alright. Now, Felpro recommends 8 foot-pounds for the smaller bolts and 18 on the corners. As I tighten these down, the bolts around them get a little bit looser, so make sure you get a good even squeeze in the gasket. Seems kind of silly for all this hardware just for the corners, but it's what I got to work with. Feels a little uncomfortable, but this is what they call for. Got a little bit of seepage here for the RTV. That's good. It tells me it's a good seal. The same in the back corners.